Hello and welcome to our Tech Tuesday, Harness the Power of Effective Resource Planning with OnePlan's Resource Module. Tech Tuesday is a webinar series presented by the OnePlan Academy team to provide short, focused sessions on OnePlan best practices, tips, and tricks. Throughout this series, we are exploring all aspects of OnePlan. In this webinar, we're going to show you how you can transform your resource management strategy using OnePlan's Resource Plan module. Today's Tech Tuesday is tailored for project managers, resource and functional managers, and anyone involved in resource planning. My name is Deb Roth, and I am the Education and Training Manager at OnePlan. And I'm here with Tina Shirk, a OnePlan Academy instructor and technical documentation lead.
As I said, today we're going to be discussing the OnePlan Global Resource Planner, which is a tool designed to help organizations allocate resources efficiently and manage capacity across multiple projects, which many of you have mentioned is an issue that you run into frequently in your organizations. By providing real-time visibility into resource utilization and capacity, the Global Resource Planner allows managers to make informed decisions regarding resource allocation, prevent bottlenecks, balance workloads, and improve collaboration between team members. Today, we will also be guiding you through the basics of navigating and using the Global Resource Plan module in OnePlan, including how to build and analyze a resource plan in OnePlan, monitor and manage your resource allocations and assignments, and utilize OnePlan's AI assistant, Sophia, to help identify bottlenecks in the resource plan and ways to resolve them. By the end of today's session, you will learn what the OnePlan Global Resource Plan module is and get an introduction into its key features and interface. We'll take a look at strategic resource allocation, including techniques for aligning resources with project demands and business priorities. We'll explore the real-time visibility and forecasting features of the OnePlan Global Resource Planner, including how to leverage OnePlan for a comprehensive view of resource availability and future needs. Then we'll dive into during all this, we'll be doing practical demonstrations where we'll demonstrate how to navigate the Global Resource Plan module, assign resources to plans, and so on. And then finally, again, throughout the session, we will cover how the OnePlan Global Resource Planner supports resource planning best practices, including clearly defining roles and responsibilities, balancing resource workloads, and regularly reviewing resource plans. Our goal for this webinar is that you have a better understanding of how using OnePlan's resource planning modules, specifically the Global Resource Plan module, as a part of your resource and project management workflow can improve project success and stakeholder satisfaction. Just to start us off, why is this important? Why do you care about the Global Resource Plan, and why are you here in this session today? Resource management is crucial for any organization's success. Rarely do organizations have resources that are dedicated to projects or work initiatives. And typically organizations have shared resources that are allocated across multiple projects and tasks that are managed by different managers. And then these managers count on having resources that they need to be available when they need them. So no business can succeed without effective project resource management. Effective resource management is essential for achieving project success and maximizing productivity. When done right, you get the ultimate control over your workforce, budget, and workflow. The OnePlan Global Resource Planner is a centralized view of resource allocations across the organization that provides organizations with centralized visibility. The Global Resource Planner provides a comprehensive view of resource allocation, availability, and utilization across all projects in your organization, again, enabling decision makers to identify potential bottlenecks and allocate resources more effectively, then improving the overall resource use. So you get that centralized view of all of these resource allocations, making it easier to coordinate across projects. So managing resources across multiple projects can be challenging. So like I was saying, the Global Resource Planner facilitates resource allocation planning across all of your ongoing projects, ensuring that you're managing overallocation or underutilization, leading to more effective resource management. And again, like we mentioned before, the Global Resource Planner really bolsters enhanced decision-making. Access to this accurate real-time data on resource availability, allocation, and utilization allows decision makers to make more informed decisions regarding resource management. So this can help you prioritize projects, identify additional resource needs, and adjust resource allocation as needed again, ensuring optimal project outcomes. Using the OnePlan resource module helps organizations streamline resource planning processes, improve efficiency, and make better informed decisions, contributing to the successful completion of projects on time and within budget. So with that, I'm going to hand this over to Deb.
So let's talk about a little bit what the OnePlan Global Resource Planner is. And so what we're going to start with going through a little bit of a deep dive of what it is and the key features. First of all, if you've never seen OnePlan, this is my homepage, and this is the main navigation menu. So the first thing is, how do you access the Global Resource Plan? So to access the Global Resource Plan, you select the resource plan from the main navigation window. So here you can see some of the key features here and the capabilities. When you navigate here initially, what you're going to see are all of your resources, committed allocations across all plans. So you can start to expand and start to see how these roles are being allocated across all plans. And for some of you that are here, you may be new to some of the terminology. A committed allocation is a cost type, and we'll talk a little bit more what the definition is of a cost type a little bit later. But that refers to the predetermined or the agreed upon number, like one FTE, one business analyst, or half of a business analyst, or a percentage of an allocation of a particular resource, named resource, that is typically in OnePlan associated with a role. And then this actually helps you determine how much capacity you have and the workload that any of these roles and these functions can take on at any specific time. That can be assigned to a particular task, a project, or those particular team members within a specific time period. Here you can see we've got it by month for this particular calendar year. And this helps you ensure that the resources that you have are optimally used. You can quickly identify over and under allocations so that you can balance the allocations and workloads across team members so that you can ensure that project goals are met promptly and efficiently. So in the context of the data that you see here, the committed hours, what that means is these are the hours representing the number of hours that each team member, so this is actually viewed by role, and Tina's going to dive in a little bit more about the menu here in a little bit, by role that each of these team members are assigned to the various tasks. And you can start to see how these are different projects and allocations across different months and across multiple projects within the organization. As I expand, I've expanded individually, but as I expand it, you'll be able to start to see the holistic view of these resources allocations across all of the different plans that have been identified. And then with each, visually, you can see here if they're proposed or committed. So we can talk a little bit more about what that means. But if they're proposed, basically it means that they haven't necessarily been officially assigned. But what we're trying to do is get every request, visibility in everything that all of the resources are being asked to do over a particular time period. So with this simple visual capacity planning, you can easily see by the color coding and just even by the numbers where the potential bottlenecks could be by role, by individual resource, even by potentially by location if you're geographically distributed and your resources are actually allocated by geography. By the way, OnePlan is configurable to help support that. And so this way you can proactively start to forecast and identify these issues across your entire project portfolio and resolve them before they become overarching issues. So, you can even hover your mouse over here and notice that the total capacity for the number of business analysts that we have here is a little over 1,200 hours. However, the total forecasted in May is over 2,000. So that understanding will help you from your organization understand what to prioritize, maybe where you can reassign resources, what maybe, or even make hiring decisions. And that's part of the top-down planning that this holistic view gives you to create what's achievable and balance your capacity versus the demand over the long range horizon. And that includes projects, products, applications, operations. So using the OnePlan Global Resource Planner gives you a view into everything that all of your resources are working on. Let's talk a little bit more about some of these features. I highlighted the heat map here, Lapsol. So you can see here when I expand again, I'll expand the business analyst. You can see and identify these issues in real time. We're going to show you a little bit later how you can maybe make an assignment for another resource to help alleviate some of these overages, but we're just doing an overview right now. And I just hovered and showed you some of these over allocations. There's an opportunity to take a look at cross-project reporting. You can actually export this global resource plan to Excel, so that might be able to feed into some of your HR systems or other systems that you have, or you can develop reports outside of here. We're going to show you the candidates list a little bit later and dive more deeply, but within this candidates list, you can start to take a look at some visualizations of overarching capacity versus demand when you actually select some of these resources. And in a little bit, Tina's going to actually jump in and show you how to add a booking, so you can start looking at how to add resources to plans. This one is I'm going to cancel and cancel out of this view. But you can start selecting resources, and then you can add bookings immediately to start resolving these issues. You can assign them to generics or from generics to named resources. And that can give you maybe that real-time update that you're looking for, right? When you can kind of see that potentially Ben is over allocated with the, let me see, we can find a resource with a business analyst. We can try to find another resource that perhaps he can be reassigned to, and we can add that booking, okay? Just another quick note for those of you who have an organization where maybe you've got department or functional managers that have the resources within their organization, and they get assigned to the PMs or to projects and other initiatives. There is actually an automated resource negotiation feature that can support the request for a resource and the review between the departmental and functional managers and the PMs, but we're not going to demonstrate that feature to you today. Just tuck that away to know that if that's something that your organization is looking to do, this OnePlan resource plan has the capability to support that. Next, I'm going to have Tina's going to show you how to use the, do a deep dive into the Global Resource Plan icon menu to view, create, and manage the Global Resource Plan.
All right, thanks, Deb. So Deb gave you a quick overview into the Global Resource Plan. So now I'm going to take you a step further. We're going to take a look, like Deb said, into kind of how you can use all the different buttons and menus and things in the resource planner to actually start doing and managing resources in this resource plan. So at the very top, you're going to see a couple of filters. These are called pre-filters. So they're resource manager pre-filters. There's a resource type pre-filter. These are all going to be configured by your admin. But what's important about these filters is that they help you really refine the amount of resources, which resources are being displayed in your global resource plan, and it really helps improve OnePlan performance because these are all server-side filters. So what that means is it filters the data before on the server before it gets pushed to your computer. So it makes things a lot faster on your end because there's a lot less data being pushed to your computer. So we have a resource type. As you know, in OnePlan, we have just individual resources, or you can look at teams of resources. So we'll apply that, and you can see we have a couple of teams here. So you can manage teams on the global level, but we're really going to be focusing today on individual resources. There's also a business unit pre-filter you can apply that we have set up here. So maybe you want to look at just resources who belong to the IT department. You can use this pre-filter here to set that up. Manager, similar, you can select manager and just view all the resources who are being managed by that manager. And finally, we have the state pre-filter. So Deb mentioned that proposed committed view. So if I expand this, you can see we have some committed. We've committed. So you can use this filter to actually maybe only look at resources who have proposed, like allocation proposals and things like that. Or maybe you just want to look at those with committed allocations. You're able to do that using this pre-filter. And there are a bunch of other pre-filters, but these are kind of the out-of-the-box pre-filters in OnePlan. Moving down then, we have kind of our main icon bar then. So first we have cost types. The cost types menu. Deb briefly touched on cost types, but I'm going to dive into it a little bit more right now. So cost types are different groupings configured per business use case. They're different kinds of resource plans that OnePlan is able to support, essentially. These groupings allow you to analyze how resources are planned compared to how they are assigned to work. The reason these groupings are called cost types is because the resource plan hours can actually be converted to costs when they're imported into the financial plan. So there's a really close connection in OnePlan between your resource plans and your financial plans. So you're able to get that financial data based off of your resources utilization and things like that. So when that happens, the rate for each resource, according to the number of hours that they are allocated, gets converted into a financial value in the financial plan. So this means that cost types allow organizations to calculate, evaluate, and monitor how resources are being allocated. There are possible and often likely differences between how a resource's time is first planned, booked into specific work, and then spent. So you can see here, there's a couple different out-of-the-box resource plan or cost types that we have in our resource plans. We have our committed cost type, which we were in initially. So this is the initial estimate at a high level of how your resources are being allocated to their different tasks and plans and things like that. So this is where you'll do your top-down planning, right? That kind of high-level initial stab at allocating your resources. Then you can flip to the scheduled view, again, another out-of-the-box cost type, where this displays the totals from your actual work plan schedules. So these are how your resources are actually being scheduled on these different projects inside of. So for project launch, you can see that Amanda's actually assigned to these tasks versus just kind of loosely assigned to the project. So this is pulling from the work plan schedule. And then finally, we have our timesheets cost type, which similar, you can see we only have one resource here who has some timesheet data provided here. But you can, this will display timesheet data as your resources are entering time into their timesheets. So then you can start to look at how your resources were initially planned to be utilized, how they were scheduled, and then how they actually spent their time using these different resource plan views. So I'm going to flip back to the committed view. I'm going to go to the next icon here, which is the add booking icon, which Deb mentioned before. So in this global resource plan view, as the resource manager, you're able to add these different bookings to different plans in OnePlan for your resources. So bookings is a quick way to allocate resources or teams of resources to resource plans. They are set for a certain time and will allocate the resource or team evenly across that time period. So another important note before I get started, to add bookings to projects, you have to be in this committed view, right? You can't do it from the scheduled view because that's coming from the work plan. You can't do that from the timesheet cost type because that information is coming from timesheet data. So committed view is where you can actually make these bookings. So I'm going to go ahead and just run through an example of adding a booking to a project. So I'm going to click the add booking icon. I need to select a resource first, excuse me. Deb Roth, and we want to book her. So we'll add a booking. So we're going to add Deb to the data warehouse migration. So I'm going to type that in. We're going to add her to this project. And then the dates we're going to add her to this project for, we want her to be working on this data warehouse migration project from April 2024 to December 2024. So we'll use this date selector, December 2024. Okay. And we're going to use a percent allocation. So between April and December, each month Deb will be allocated 25% of her time to this project. So again, bookings will distribute that allocation evenly across this time range that we set up. So each month, 25% allocation. We'll click add. It'll think for a bit there. And now you can see Deb has her allocation this here from April to December of 2024 to the data warehouse migration. So you'll see this is proposed. So that means that it's not in the committed state. This is more of just a flag marker. It's the committed proposed in this view works a little bit differently than if you actually have negotiations on, but negotiations are a bit outside the scope of today's session. But you can see that it's in a proposed state. As the resource manager, I can go ahead and flip it to committed, or the project manager can actually take a look at that new allocation that we created and review it and flip it to committed if they would like to. That is adding a booking. So now that we have a booking, let's take a look at, let's keep rolling down the line here. So next up, we have the candidates list, which Deb showed you briefly, the candidates list. So the candidates list, sometimes you need to start planning before you know who has availability and will be assigned to do the work. The great thing about using the OnePlan Global Resource Planner is that you can use generic resources for that long range resource forecasting. Then you can match those generics with named resources using the candidates list. So let's take a look here, shrink everything. Let's take a look at our generic resources here. All right, so let's say we have an engineer, right? We have an engineer for this improved user experience. Right now it's committed, but let's just say it was proposed and we're having some issues with this, or we actually want to have an engineer assigned to this role. So we can actually use this candidates list here to replace that generic resource on this project with a named resource. So to do that, I will make sure I'm searching for resources and not teams. If I had a specific resource that I wanted to use for this project, I can use the search bar. Otherwise, I can use this best match option, which we highly recommend. So you click that, and then OnePlan will go ahead and search your resource pool for someone who has the same role that we're looking for and the highest amount of availability. So you can see that Jim is our best option here. He has availability for these 2 dates for July and August. And he has plenty of availability. So you can actually go ahead and just replace that resource. And there you go. Now Jim has been assigned to, if I could, Jim. Now you can see that Jim has been assigned to that work rather than just a generic engineer. So that's using the candidates list to do that replacement of your generics from the global resource plan. Moving forward then, we have our views menu. So the views menu, you're able to save and configure your resource plan to best meet the way that you work, right? So you can, and we'll kind of dive into this a little bit later, but you can set up, you can use different planning modes. So you can look at your resource plan based on percent allocation for your resources or full-time equivalents for your resources, or looking at it in hours. You can set up different date ranges in your view, different groupings using filters and things, which I'll show you in just a second. So you can apply all of these different settings to your view, and then you can actually go ahead and save it to use later. There's also a couple of out-of-the-box views that you'll see here. So we have like resource plans by business unit. So this will have that business unit grouping applied, or you have resource plans by role. So again, this will group your resources by role. And then another important view, we have been looking at the resource summary view, but resource requirements is also a very important view where you can look at the project, and then you can see resource allocations that are required. So basically requests how much time is required for your resources versus how much time you have remaining to fulfill. So that's the resource requirements view, which can be very helpful. We'll go back to the summary view.
It's a great way to facilitate that communication between your project managers and those of you that are overseeing the resources at the departmental or functional level, in addition to the regular communication that you have together, right? So thanks for showing that.
Yeah. So then Deb kind of briefly showed the expand and collapse buttons. So this helps you quickly flip through all of your resources. So, I can see everything, my resources and all of the projects that they're assigned to, or I can collapse it and have a much more condensed view of my resource plan using these buttons. Next up, again, we have our planning units mode, which I mentioned. You can look at your resource plans in hours, percentage, or full-time equivalents, depending on how you like to work. And then we can dive into, we call it the modified view menu. So this is where you can set up different date ranges. So maybe I want to look at resource allocations for 2025. There's a preset view range for that. Maybe I want a custom range. Maybe I only want to look at, let's see, maybe I just want to look at April through December of 2024, right? So I can apply that. So then you can have control over the date range that you're looking at in your resource plan. Group by, so we've kind of showed you those out of the box groupings. There are a couple of items here that you can group, a couple of fields you can group your resource plans by, like role, business unit, we showed you those. If you're using multiple calendars, you can group your resources by the calendars that they're using. So maybe you have resources in different parts of the world using different calendars. You can use this calendars field to group your resources. And then again, requirements, that resource requirements view, you can group them that way. Go back to none. And then we have filters, similar to the top level pre-filters that we showed you, except this is filtering on your end, your computer. So you can filter again by status or by state, by the timesheet manager, role, any of these resource fields. You can apply filters so it narrows down the number of resources that you see in your view. And then finally, we have this compare to view. So this is a pretty cool view that allows you to compare your different cost types that we talked about at the beginning of my spiel here. So you're able to maybe select committed versus scheduled. Then you'll have your committed resource plan, all that data here on the left-hand side, and on the right-hand side, you'll have your scheduled view. And then, let's see, because the arrow is pointing, so when committed is greater than scheduled, that's when it's going to, that's what determines the color coding. So when your scheduled becomes greater than your committed view, it's going to highlight that data, the scheduled view in red or in yellow, depending on how much over the scheduled is compared to the committed view. So you can also flip that comparison the other way. So it highlights when the committed view is much higher than the scheduled view, and then you can do the same between committed and timesheets, flipping it back and forth. So the committed view is very useful to be able to do those quick assessments like we were saying between your different cost types. And then finally, way over here on the side, we have the refresh. So you can keep refreshing your data on demand using this refresh button. Maybe if someone's working in a project and needs you to review something right away, you can click the refresh button, and the updates that they make on the project side will then be pushed automatically into your resource plan. And then Deb showed you the export feature, so you can export your resource plan to Excel. So that is the overall, that is the icon bar and kind of how you interact with the resource plan. I did miss this advanced option here. You can actually set up delegates for your resource plan. So maybe I want Deb to be a delegate for me to be able to do that resource allocation, resource manager stuff for me. And then there's the legend. So this basically breaks down what all of the different colors mean inside of your grid. So you can see when there's under allocation or over allocation, it starts to turn red. And then you have your requirements view showing you when your resource requirements are fulfilled or when they are under fulfilled. So that legend is there for your use as you're using the resource plan and getting familiar with it. So with that, that's the end of kind of the icon overview and learning how to interact with the resource plan. So I'm going to hand it back over to Deb for that deep dive into the candidates list.
So what Tina was able to show you was how you can use the resource planner from the capacity and the planning standpoint. What I want to show you now is a little bit more in a deeper dive into how do you take a look at the I'm gonna collapse all and you know how you're gonna be able to continue to forecast, how you can take a look at who's available when and do some real-time what ifing or assignments staying in this resource plan. And this is the candidates list that we talked about and that Tina showed you a little bit about. So this candidates list is going to be a summary of the organization's named and generic resources, all of them, along with their committed hours and overages that are included here that are and how you can assign them real time to your plans over a given period. This candidates list, as Tina mentioned before, this is a key and integral part of how you interact with the resource planner to build, analyze, and modify the resource plans real time for that visibility. And it's how you're able to shift the allocations to balance the workload against the resource availability. And again, we see some of the roles or the skill sets that we're able to allocate to. Now, typically for when you open, I'm going to refresh this, but typically when you open the candidates list, it will be, the grid is going to be, nothing's going to load, and that's by design. So let's drill a little bit more. Tina started showing it to you a little bit, but let's drill a little bit more into how you can view the candidates in the candidate list. You can look at, you can find a resource, a named resource. I'll go back to that. You can look at resources or teams. So Tina showed you how you can create teams. If these have been created already in the Resource Center, you can look at different teams. You can also find resources by a bunch of different ways. But so I have that capability to determine how I want to find them. The first one, if I'm going to find the resource, if I want to use the resource search bar, I can type in and search for somebody. This find resource search is really handy if you already know who it is you're looking for. So let's say, for example, I'm looking for Tina, and there she is. So I don't have to be going through a whole bunch of different ways to find her. And she's right at the top of the list. But let's say sometimes you don't know who you're looking for or who that named resource is going to be. But for planning and forecasting purposes, you do know the role or the skill that you're going to be looking for and approximately the timing that you need to do the planning for, or a percentage of allocation. So I'm going to keep it on individual resources. If I wanted to look for teams, I can show that to you, and I'll show that to you in a little bit. But under the resources, I'm going to go to find resource, and I am going to search by role. And let's say I want to find trainers, okay? And I click the trainers, and I see both the generic, and I see generics, and I see named resources. So the generic trainer, you can see here in the resource role by, that is a placeholder. So that role is associated with these named resources as well as the generic resource. Now, you probably already know the value of using a generic resource. Generic resources are really valuable, particularly when you're forecasting. Let's say you have to do your annual forecast, or maybe you're a PM that knows you need a trainer, but you don't know exactly who it's going to be. So rather than wait, you can use these generic resources to get your top-down planning that was mentioned earlier when Tina was showing it to you. And in this case, now we have a trainer that is actually assigned to several plans, but we don't, now it's time to, we're getting into the timing where we need to actually get a resource allocated. So here I've got the candidates list, and when I look at the candidates here, all of the trainers are identified, and you can see 3 named resources, all from, it shows you by business unit. The other thing about the trainers that will be interesting to you is that as you see the availability, you're going to see the resources availability by the highest percentage on down to the lower percentage as you start matching. So Tina, right now, it's early in the time. I can select Tina, and let's just say I want to assign her to the inventory management plan. I select Tina, I select the plan, and I select here from the list below. Sorry, I had multiple resources. It will tell you if you have multiple resources. So it's a really one-to-one relationship as you're doing the forecasting, and that goes with teams. With teams, you'll have more than one resource in the team, but you need to allocate one team at a time. So here's Tina, and then I replace, and then you can see that immediately she is assigned to that plan. I can keep that, keep her selected, and I can select multiple plans. She still has availability, so I'm going to replace her. Let's take a look at it another way. Let's find resources by best match. Select one plan. I'll select lean manufacturing. And I'll select Tina. Best match. All right, so you see that Tina still comes up, and I can assign her to that plan. So this is a way that you can map the candidates to the plans, and you can start to build out your plan in a way that makes sense for how your organization is structured and how your roles and your plans are looking. So taking a look at Tina, you can start to see how this is being allocated. So again, this was proposed, this is from the actual plan, and simply you can say that you're ready to commit that, right? Other ways that you can find and replace resources. When you come to this plan, if you are a resource manager and resources are assigned to you, they will show up under my resources. So I can start to allocate resources from my team. You can search by name. I can search by Austin. Everywhere here. So if you know the name of the resource and you want to, we'll do it again with Tina or Deb. Need to deselect resource, search by name. I'm going to do a quick refresh. Okay, here you go. So when you type ahead, you'll find everything that I'm assigned to, right? You can, again, start planning using only generics. So again, this is really good for your top-down planning, or maybe, for the top-down planning to understand the overarching business needs across the organization for business analysts. And you can see that, there you may need to take a look at either pushing out some of these plans, or potentially you may need to make hiring decisions over the course of the year. You can filter by only those people within an organization. Let's say you're in the operations organization and you only want to assign based on where they are in the organization. Finally, you can do it by the calendar. That's what Tina was talking about. You can have multiple calendars within your organization, maybe as Tina was talking about, either by geography, or maybe you've got shift work that's happening, etc. So we'll keep moving on this, and then also by role. So that can help you more clearly define who's got allocation and availability. You can start to see how, as we've been assigning Tina to more and more of these plans, her availability is showing that it's decreasing to reflect the commitments that she's been assigned to. You can group by. So within the candidates list, you can group by organizations. You can, again, group by the different calendars. We didn't have anyone specified in the calendar. And then also by role, by who we've selected. You can further filter, so you can start to actually continue to refine your the way you need to find your resources in the candidates list, particularly if you're in a large organization and you have a lot of resources that you need to look for and just see. And maybe you just want only generics, your business unit, right? Operations. You can see all of these different things. You can clear the filters. And then again, what I wanted to show you too is the list, and then, starting to see a view of this particular role, and how this role is being allocated across this particular time phase. So that's all encompassed in one view in the resource plan, in the resource plan itself. And I showed you to group by, the filter, charts, and that's pretty much showing you the candidates list. So you can see how the candidates list, along with the resource plan, helps you to identify, again, and analyze these resources, capacity versus demand, to help you match the resources to the work based on the role. The capability as a resource manager helps you optimize, balance the workload, and then identify those potential gaps that may require you to look at hiring decisions or pushing even projects out. I'm going to turn it over now to Tina in the time we have left to show you another tool on how you can help, that you can use to help you with your resource planning, and to demonstrate how the individual work plans and the global resource planner work together.
All right, thanks, Deb. So first, we wanted to highlight our OnePlan's AI assistant, Sophia. So what Sophia is able to do is look at data specifically in your OnePlan instance. So right now we're going to be looking at the data that's here in this resource plan view. And then you can have it do some quick analysis for you, that may be, that kind of repetitive analysis, and then really give you kind of a quick summary of what's going on. So we're going to ask Sophia which resources in order are currently overutilized. So we'll click enter on my keyboard here. And so it's going to take a look and filter through all of this data that's visible on the screen here. And it's going to be able to give us a list in order of our overutilized resources. So now you can see it's starting to provide me a list of all of the resources that it can see inside of this resource plan view. And it's going to give me we'll see how long of a list. I didn't specify a number of resources to include in this list. So we'll see how long it goes, but it's going to order them from 1 to however far it decides to go. And it's providing me the name of the resource, when those over allocations are happening, by date and year. So it's going to keep going for a while. It might go through all of them.
See how valuable that is, that you can ask the question and it does a lot of that chugging.
And you can just copy this if maybe you had this question from your manager or something, and you just copy this data and then paste it into an email and send it off, or whatever you need to do with this information. It does a lot of that kind of cursory analysis for you, just to make things go a little bit quicker in your day-to-day. All right, so the last item we need to talk about in the last few minutes are the connection between the plan level resource plans and this global resource plan we've been focusing on today. And we've briefly touched, Deb and I briefly touched on this throughout today's session, but we're going to take a look at the plan level resource plans and kind of how they connect. So now that we've shown you this global resource plan, let's walk through some of this plan level resource plans and take a look. So I'm going to go to global resource plan. For upgrades, and we want to go to the resource plan. All right. So plan level resource plans are created at the individual plan level. So these are used for your plan managers to start to get those resource allocations, that kind of overall view of resources allocations and what they're going to need. The global resource planner, on the other hand, as we've been talking about through today's session, provides this holistic view into individual and team resource allocations across the entire organization and is geared for your department or functional resource managers. So these functional or departmental resource managers will take that holistic view from the global resource plan, take that view of their resources and how they're assigned, and then project managers will need to schedule and address project-specific questions like how many resources do I need and how long do I need them? What kind of resources or skill sets do I need? How much do these resources cost? And then availability, like how many hours a day is each resource available to work in my project, and what other projects are these resources assigned to? So the OnePlan plan level resource plan that you're seeing on the screen here focuses on all scheduled work assignments for a particular plan. So at this level, project managers can assign and allocate resources to their specific plans. Using this plan level resource plan supports the ability for plan managers to view, assign, and adjust resource allocations for their plan. Then if there are skill gaps or over allocations in the project team, the plan manager or project manager can request additional resources from their resource manager. And these requests, like we showed you with that proposed list, will show up in that global resource plan for them to take a look at and fulfill those resource requirements. So you can see that we're looking here at this server upgrades plan level resource plan. And you can see all the assignments here. You can see we have a business analyst. I'm going to go ahead and just type in, let's see, I'm going to add Deb to this plan from April to December, and we'll put her at 15% allocated for this. We'll add. So I've added Deb to this plan level resource plan. We have this public-private entries on, which we're not going to be able to touch too much on, but essentially that means there's a draft mode, and then you can publish it. Once you publish it, it'll push that data out to the global resource plan. So I've added Deb to this plan level resource plan, and I'm going to show you on the global side what that looks like real quick. So we'll go back to the global resource plan. We will find Deb Roth, and you'll see now that that allocation that I put in my plan level resource plan is now reflected in the global resource plan. So now as a resource manager, I can review that allocation. Maybe I can find if Deb has some over allocations. It looks like she's fine. Everything's green, but if there were over allocations, we can start to suggest maybe other resources to fulfill those needs and things like that. So that's the connection between the global and the plan level. With that, it is time to wrap up today's session.
Thank you so much, Tina. Today, our goal was to introduce you to OnePlan's resource plan, key features and interface, and then demonstrate how OnePlan's global resource plan module is designed to align with industry best practices and demonstrate how it can empower your organization's ability to create robust resource plans for your organization. We walked you through what the OnePlan's resource plan module is. We gave you an introduction to its key features and interface. We went through all of those things that I had just mentioned before in the summary. So I'm going to summarize the summary. As we demonstrated today, the OnePlan Global Resource Plan module helps organizations streamline resource planning processes, improve efficiency, and make better informed decisions, contributing to the successful completion of projects on time and within budget. As you start your journey with OnePlan, remember to leverage the diverse tools and resources available to you to optimize your project management endeavors and to drive tangible results for your organization. Please be sure to check out these resources for self-paced and on-demand opportunities. OnePlan Academy Digital Learning Management System, OnePlan support. These videos will also be posted on a marketing webinar and our YouTube channel. We hope that the session today has given you information and equipped you with practical insights and ways for you to use the OnePlan Resource Planner to streamline resource planning processes, improve efficiency, and make better informed decisions, contributing to the successful completion of projects on time and on budget. Thanks for your participation, and we look forward to accompanying you on your portfolio resource management journey. Thanks so much.